Fellow primates, this is the grumpy old mechanic again. Let's talk about reciprocal deference to expertise. We live, you may have noticed, in an enormously complex civilization. It hasn't been possible for anyone to know everything, at least since John Milton. If our society is to function, we have to depend on a mutually supporting web of expertise. Unfortunately, for a large fraction of our society, this deference only goes one way. Let me illustrate. Imagine a couple of university professors retiring to the wilds of western Montana. One is a climatologist. The other studies cosmic ray spallation in the Apollo lunar samples. They want to heat wood, so they decide to buy a chainsaw. Imagine, again, that they tell the mechanic at the shop they will file the teeth to 0 degrees and use used motor oil for bar lube. The amount of derision and contempt they would get from the mechanic would be amazing. He'd be telling the tale of the stupid city slickers for months. His contempt and derision would be totally right. He has years of experience and decades of actual scientific research on chainsaw maintenance behind him. Of course, something like this would never happen. Not even a physicist would smugly tell an experienced mechanic how to do his job. Here is where it goes wrong. The ignorant rube at the chainsaw shop will have no trouble telling the scientists that global warming is a liberal hoax and that the moon landings were filmed on a New Jersey soundstage. He will take umbrage if he is corrected. Even worse, the civility police will clutch their pearls and talk about the dangers of offending the basket of deplorables if you make fun of him. It is true that calling this yokel an idiot will not convince him, but neither will the opposite approach. You can take the nincompoop to the local university library and show him 1,000 peer-reviewed papers on the effects of human activity on climate in climatology journals. He would tell you science is corrupt and stick with the ravings of a deranged ex-psychology professor being interviewed by a moron on Spotify. You could show him the January 30th, 1970 issue of Science with its 144 papers on the Apollo 11 mission written by more than 800 physicists and geologists. He would tell you NASA lies, and stick with Roger Stone, Candace Owens, and the soundstage. The same scenario gets repeated endlessly. The origin of species, gender study, the behavior of aviation fuel byproducts at high altitude, critical race theory, immunology, mental health, the shape of the earth, epidemiology, viruses, etc. Decades of experience and centuries of actual scientific research mean nothing to the basket of deplorables. The result of this willful ignorance is not trivial. People who will not listen to actual experts are easily manipulated by charlatans and stable geniuses. The attack on knowledge professions is no accident. People who study the real world have always been a threat to the predator class. Powerful and wealthy men can't stand being told they are wrong. Those who are skilled at getting power and wealth assume that they are skilled at everything else. Actual academics are a threat to this power, wealth, and the self-esteem of the oligarchs. Then there is the overriding problem that we have. We need to leave trillions of dollars of fossil fuels unburnt if we are to save civilization. The solutions to this are hard and not likely to succeed, but we need to try if we want civilization to survive. First, people need to familiarize themselves with how much knowledge is out there. Go to your nearest university library and wander through the science section. Note that any question you, as a non-expert, can ask has already been addressed in excruciating detail ages ago. The peer-reviewed papers answering your question will probably be in a back issue of a journal that hasn't been touched since the last library remodel. Second, there must be pushback when your Magaloon relative babbles about Jewish space lasers, chemtrails, COVID conspiracies, graphene oxide interacting with 5G, and so on. Demand evidence. Be prepared with your own. Ask for wagers. Third, demand transparency. The science community is not very good at this. Many scientists seem to view communicating their findings to the general public as an imposition. The aforementioned issue of science, for example, is still behind a paywall, despite being the result of public funding. Fourth, in a few cases, it's said that it's possible to convince people by developing trusting relationships. It probably won't work with these morons, but it's worth a try. Lastly, we have to destroy the Republican Party, the party that only accepts knowledge that increases the wealth and power of the predator class. We can then recognize that Democrats, despite being moderately right-wing corporatist militarists, are the only possible way to have a chance of saving civilization. Adios.